A nasty battle over a contaminated industrial site first exposed by the 7 Action News investigators is heating up again. Now the fight is over access to the abandoned Ford Visteon site in Shelby Township for more environmental testing.
Investigator Scott Lewis broke the story of this environmental slugfest 3 weeks ago, and Scott, things seem to be getting more contentious by the day.
They sure are, Diana. The hot issue when we broke this story was Ford's effort to seal records in the case. 3 days after our story aired, the judge who was leaning toward giving Ford a protective order reversed himself. And today, lawyers were before the judge with a new beef over access to the poisoned industrial site for testing.
We were given access to the entire property, and that is what we are here to get today. It's been blocked at every turn, Judge.
A gaggle of high-priced attorneys knocking heads again before Macomb County Circuit Court Judge Richard Coretti. It all centers on this abandoned Ford Visteon plant in Shelby Township. Ford sold it to a demolition company called Indiana Metals, and the automaker has agreed to clean up contamination on the plant site. Enter Jim Dragon, a respected environmental scientist who discovered the pollution is more widespread than first thought. Dragon found 2 highly toxic chemicals used for degreasing have migrated into groundwater under the adjacent property that Ford sold to developer Grand Sakwa. Dragon says the contamination poses a potential health threat and more testing is needed to find out the full extent of the problem. When Dragon, who is hired by Shelby Township and Grand Sakwa, showed up with an office trailer to start testing on the plant site this week, Indiana Metals wouldn't let him on the property. So Shelby Township's attorney asked for an emergency hearing to get access. Lawyers for Ford and Indiana Metals say they wouldn't let Dragon on the property because he was expanding the scope of his testing, and it could interfere with their ongoing demolition and environmental testing Ford is doing on its own. Judge Coretti is clearly running out of patience with illegal bickering.
I think this is a classic example of much ado about nothing. It's also a colossal waste of all of counsel's time and the court's time.
Coretti told the lawyers to go into a conference room and work out the ground rules for Dragon's testing. He said if they couldn't agree, he'd call them back into court and settle the issue for them. Lawyers huddled for a while, then reached an agreement. The judge had to settle only a couple of minor issues. Jim Dragon says he'll get access he needs for testing, and he'll begin next Monday. He wants to find out the source and the extent of the contamination and find a way to contain it so it doesn't spread any further.
Scott, what was the status of the land that Grand Sakwa bought for development?
There's a small subdivision on the southern end, but the bulk of it is vacant right now, and Gary Sakwa told me today unless they get a handle on this and clean it up, that vacant land is virtually useless to us.